Everyone, welcome to our second Facebook Live, or my second Facebook Live. If you've seen us advertise already, you'll know that today I'm going to be talking all about living and working from home with Axial SpA. This is really important any time of year, but especially at the moment where a lot of us normally would be going out of the house to the office and moving a lot more, and finding that actually working from home was still a lot more, and it's affecting IAS quite significantly. It's something we've had quite a few queries on the helpline about, so we thought it'd be better to come on, do a live video. You can ask as many questions as you'd like. As usual, all the videos will stay up afterwards, so you can watch back at any time. And also I'm going to publish a blog post with all the advice that I give, so that you can have a read up later if you wish. So feel free to pop any comments in the box, say hello if you're watching, and hopefully you'll find this helpful. For anyone who didn't see the video last week, my name is Zoe Clark. I'm an osteopath, and I also live with AS as well. I've joined NASS on the helpline during the COVID-19 outbreak to help with the increased number of queries and calls that we're getting. So if you give the helpline a call, you may well get me answering. If you'd like to have a chat with me specifically at any point, if you want any help on exercises or advice, anything that an osteopath can advise on, just drop me an email at zoe@nass.co.uk and we'll be able to organise a call and we can go through things, and I can email you specific exercises if that would be helpful. So anyone watching so far, feel free to say hello. Hi, Daniel. And just ask questions as we go along, and hopefully I'll cover everything. So understandably, it can be difficult working from home at the best of times. As I said, then with AS on top of that, it can be quite difficult. And we all know that movement really is the best thing that we can do for AS. So most of the advice I'll be going through is really just recommending getting up and getting moving, and just giving everyone a few reminders and nudges, which I could use myself as well. The first advice is a really good phrase: the best posture is the next posture. So as an osteopath, often people ask me what is the best posture when I'm working at a desk. Actually, there is no best posture. You can be set up in the best sort of stereotypical posture that is advised, but if you stay in that position for a long period of time, it's not going to feel good, whether you have AS or not. So really the best posture is the next posture that you're moving into. I really advise having a desk set up or different workstations around the home, which mean that you can vary the way that you're positioned throughout the day. So you can start in one position, set a timer for around an hour, and then move on to a different position. So in terms of the standard desk seated position, so using a desk and a regular desk chair, preferably wheeled so you can move it around. Ideally, you want the chair to be able to come in close enough to the desk so that you can get your forearms resting on the desk and then hands onto the keyboard. If you have arms on the chair that are too high, try and adjust them so they're lower so you can bring the chair right in if they need to come underneath the desk. Similarly, you want your feet flat on the floor so you're nicely grounded. And then if you use a laptop, you can have a plug-in keyboard and plug-in mouse so that you can put the laptop on some boxes or books, something like that, so that it's at eye level. And then you've got the actual keyboard and mouse down on the desk where your hands are relaxed onto there. If you could look at the moment, I've got the laptop set up so that the camera is at eye level for me, and it's on a pile of board games. So it's not my usual desk setup. I'm trying to get some good light for the video, but you don't need any fancy equipment. You can literally use a pile of board games, pile of books, an empty box, anything you've got handy just to make the position the best position for you at the time. Then moving on, a really useful position is to try standing as well. Particularly for AS, this means that you can shift your weight from one foot to the other, you can move around, you can march on the spot if you want to. So even if you're working for an extended period of time, you're still able to get moving, get your spine moving, and reduce any stiffness or discomfort as well. So in terms of a standing position, there are desks out there which will go from regular height to standing height, which if you find that you're working from home long term, this may be a good investment. But really you can use something like the kitchen counter. If you've got any bookshelves that are around the right height, just look around the home and see what would work for you. Particularly at the moment, if you have children at home too, obviously that's going to affect where you're choosing to work. But just think outside the box a little bit and see if you can mix it up a little bit throughout the day. The next position that I really recommend is using a Swiss ball. So they're like the big round exercise balls that you can use in Pilates classes. This is my most preferred way to sit, because it means that even when you're sat at the desk, you can just sort of bounce around. Again, you can shift your weight from one side to the other and move around. The one thing I'd recommend is that if you're like me and without really realizing it, you just move around loads, if you're doing a video call or a webinar or anything like that, it's probably not the best seat, because you'll end up giving people motion sickness. That's something I have to remind myself to do whenever I'm doing video calls or webinars and sat on my Swiss ball. But it's a really good option, particularly if you get hip pain as well, because it means you can keep your hips moving and keep your back moving even while you're working if you're stuck on something for a long period of time. So next as well, I would recommend looking into meditation seats. So at the moment I am sat on the floor, but I'm sat on a wedge cushion. So it's higher at the back than it is at the front. And this means that I'm able to sit on the floor and I can move my legs in different ways. So I can have them slanted to one side, I can fold them, I can move about, or even I can just sit and bend my knees up so that I'm just sitting on my hip bones, my sitting bones. It gives lots of different options. If you're working on a laptop, you can use this or a different type of meditation cushion if you don't have problems with your knees, so that you can sit at a like a coffee table, and then it gives you just a different position. You're going to be stretching different areas of your body that you would be in an office chair or that you would be if you're on a Swiss ball. So it's just something that you may not want to stay in a long position, but it gives you something else to throw into the mix to keep things moving and keep things more comfortable on different areas of your body, depending on where you get symptoms. And as I said, I would recommend setting a timer, because it's completely natural to get stuck into some work and end up thinking you're going to be there for about half an hour, and then 2-3 hours go by. And when you go to get back up again, you're really stiff, really painful, and it takes a while to loosen up. So I would really recommend having a timer on your phone for around an hour, and then getting up, moving around, and then changing your position. You can also use this time to be really helpful for your eyesight and for your concentration as well. So after about an hour, if you get up, do a few stretches and take a few deep breaths, I'd recommend going to a window or even just looking across the room so that you're changing your eyesight from something close up to something further away, and it gives your eyes that break as well. Gets the daylight in, which is really helpful too in terms of keeping us awake and alert. And then just having those few deep breaths just helps with our concentration. And actually, when you get back into the work, you'll find that you're feeling a bit more refreshed. And hopefully by the end of the day, if you're doing this regularly every hour or so, you should find that you're not feeling quite as drained and quite as tired. And if you get headaches from eye problems, hopefully it will help with that as well. So as I said, feel free to ask any questions as we go along, and I'll answer them as we go. So in terms of keeping moving as well, because that really is the best advice I can give for AS, if you're doing your usual daily stretches, if you're at home due to self-isolation, working from home or shielding, I'd recommend increasing your daily stretches. So if you normally do them once a day, I'd try them twice a day. And again, if you do them twice a day, try 3 times a day. So you're just increasing it that little bit more to help counter out the fact that you're not necessarily getting outside as much or doing your daily commute or your food shopping and so on. It just helps balance it out a little bit and hopefully reduces the impact it has on you. There are also some particular stretches which can be really helpful during when you're seated as well. So if you can't get up from the desk, if you are stuck on a call, or if you're deep in a lot of work, I'll go through a few stretches which can be really helpful to help loosen things up as you're sat there. So we want to target particularly the neck, the shoulders, the back and the hips, because these tend to be the areas we can't move as much when we're sat down for a long period, and obviously they tend to be the main areas we're affected with AS. So with all these exercises, feel free to do them as I go through, but if you have any problems in the areas, just take it nice and gently, really feel what your body's doing and how far it wants you to go. Don't push through any pain at all. Obviously, if you get any pain, then just stop and rest, and you can always revisit these exercises later on. So firstly, for the neck, the main thing we want to do is go through the main movements. So you start by sitting nice and upright with your shoulders down and nice and relaxed. And you'd look over each shoulder. So we'd go to the right side and then to the left. And you just want to do these nice gentle movements, nice and fluid and rhythmic, and do them, I'd say, about 2 to 3 times to begin with. And then if that's comfortable, you can always build it up, or you can just do it frequently throughout the day. So if you want to try that with me, so we're just going over to the right side and then over to the left and then back to the center. And then to get a different kind of movement through the neck, you can take your head over to the side and just tilting each side, and quite often you can feel a stretch going from the neck and across into the shoulder, which is often nice. So again, if you want to try that with me, we're just going over to the left and then over to the right and come back up. And then just be cautious with this movement if you do have problems with your neck or your blood pressure, but we want to take the head down to the floor and then going up in the opposite direction. But again, just only as far as is comfortable. If you find it's painful in the neck, then particularly going up, take it nice and gently. So again, we're just going down towards the floor and up towards the ceiling and then back. It's really nice to follow this with a few shoulder stretches. So generally doing some shoulder rolls. So you'll bring the shoulders round in circular movements one direction. I'd do about 5 times for that. And then you can go forward in the other direction to help stretch things up, loosen things up. And then you can just shrug the shoulders up and relax them down as well. And quite often, if you feel a lot of stress and tension through your neck and shoulders, this can be really nice, because when you shrug your shoulders up, as you come back down and relax them, it can help you encourage that relaxation. Sometimes, particularly if we're working on something stressful, we'll find that our shoulders are just gradually coming up towards our ears. So this is a nice way just to get them to come back down again, and again, just give you that pause and that relaxation as well. As well, a really common area that we get tightness when we're working at a desk a lot is through the front of the shoulders. There's a really good exercise you can do. You can either just take the arms straight back behind you so that you feel a stretch through the front of the shoulder here, and then relax back down. And same the other side, so we're going back. Again, feel the stretch across through the pecs here and come back down. You can do them both at the same time to make it stronger. And if you want to make it really strong, you can use a door frame as well. So say you're standing in the doorway here, and the door frame is along your arm here. You keep your shoulders facing forward and you just gently lean your body forward so that the door frame stops your forearm moving, and it does that kind of movement to get the stretch through there. But because you've got that door frame stopping it, it's a lot stronger. One thing to note with that is I would only hold it for a couple of seconds at a time to begin with and build it up over time depending on how it feels afterwards, because sometimes it can be a little bit tender afterwards. But also our bodies do like to cheat to try and avoid the stretches and avoid any discomfort. So what tends to happen with this one is as we move forward and start to feel that stretch, our body will just relax and try and turn the shoulder forward so you don't actually end up getting a stretch here. So as you're going through the doorway, just try and think of keeping your shoulders nice and together and both facing forward rather than twisting and avoiding the stretch there. So they're really nice ones just to loosen the shoulders up. And then next we want to get the mid back and the lower back moving. Similar to the neck, it's a similar kind of movements, but just lower down in the spine. So with this, when you're seated or when you're standing, you just want to turn so that your body is twisting around to the other side. Try and move your neck to follow the movement as well, because that will be more comfortable. If you're sitting, you can use a hand over onto the other knee to help just bring yourself around. But again, just as far as is comfortable. And then come back to the center. If you want to try that with me, then again, you just bring one hand over to the opposite knee and turn as if you're looking behind you, just as far as comfortable, and then come back to the center. And again on the other side, so bring the hand over and just come round and back to the center again. And then like the neck, we want to do those side bending movements as well. So with this, when you're standing, you'll tilt down so your hand is reaching down towards the floor. And when you're sitting, again, you'll be reaching down towards the floor. I'm just going each way. Because I'm sat on the floor at the moment, it's a little bit difficult. I'm slightly blocked, but ideally you'd do this standing or sitting on a chair. And again, just as far as is comfortable. And then for the movements where you're bringing your head down towards the floor, up towards the ceiling, it's essentially like the cat-cow movement that we did in the breathing exercises last week. So if you want to go back and watch those as well, that might be helpful. But really what you want to do is just look down towards the floor and slump your back backwards. And then you do the opposite. So you look up towards the ceiling and you arch your back the other way. So you're bringing your sternum, your chest bone towards the ceiling and come back. And if you want to try that again, so you're slumping down towards the floor and then up towards the ceiling. And to get the hips moving, what you can do is when you're sitting in a chair with your feet on the floor, you can just gently relax your knee out to one side. So you're getting a bit of a rotation through your hip, and then come back to the center. So if I show you my knee here, as you're sitting with your knees like so, you just relax one hip out and then come back and then relax the other one out. and come back. So it's just getting a bit of rotation through your hips, so particularly the muscles at the back of the hips is going to help stretch those. And then using, having your feet flat on the floor and just bringing your heels up. So you're doing like calf pumping movements like you do on an aeroplane to keep your circulation going. That's really good to get the ankles moving and the knees and the hips as well. But it is going to get your circulation going. So if you've been sat for a little while, that can be really helpful too. So as I said, most of my advice today is going to be get up and get moving and keep loosening up. So definitely if you're able to get outside, if you've got good weather, if you're lucky to have the sunshine like I am today, and with the social distancing measures, if you're able to get outside, I'd recommend going for a walk or a jog or a cycle, whatever usual exercise you do. Really make the most of the outside, because then you're able to get your heart rate up and help with that general fitness as well, which is really important, particularly at the moment. It can be really easy to get into that rhythm with work and just not really realise how long you've spent sat at a desk. And so getting outside and getting moving can be really helpful. And again, it really helps with your concentration as well, so you're not just sat focusing on one thing. If you aren't able to get outside because you're shielding or because of the area you live in where you aren't able to keep that 2-metre distance from people, I'd recommend things like star jumps in the house, or brisk walking if you've got a long hallway or a garden where you can do some brisk walking to get your heart rate up, or even using the stairs or just one step, holding onto something for support if you need to, and then doing step up and step down. Just enough to get your heart rate up, work up a little bit of a sweat, and it just helps with your general overall fitness and health as well, which can be really beneficial. Now, if there seems like a lot of advice and it seems like a lot of things to put into place and into practice, I really recommend getting an accountability buddy. I'm certainly the kind of person where if I've got someone else doing the same with me, where we're going to give each other a bit of a nudge, I'm much more likely to stick with something for a long period of time. So ask around family and friends and see if anybody else is in a similar position where they're working from home and not moving as much and they want to be. And then just agree to give each other a nudge each day, just to check in with each other, not feeling the pressure from each other, but just encouraging each other to keep up with these tips. Certainly it's something that if you find that fitting exercises in throughout the day is difficult to do because it goes out of your mind, the best tip is to find a time or various times throughout the day where you naturally just have a couple of minutes spare. So the really common times I would recommend is when you're brushing your teeth. You generally have a couple of minutes when you can do some gentle stretches, particularly as you're brushing your teeth. You can easily do those side bending movements, twisting your back. Again, as long as you're concentrating on how it's feeling and making sure it's comfortable. The other times are waiting for the kettle to boil. That can be really helpful. You can have time if you're cooking something where you're just putting it in the oven and then you're not aware, you have about 10-20 minutes without any input for dinner. You can just chuck something in the oven and then give it some time and do some stretches then. And you can also do it while talking on the phone as well, or doing a video call, as we're doing more of at the moment. So to help remind you, it can be useful just to have a post-it note with a couple of exercises jotted down, or even just the word exercise with an exclamation mark, and put that in those different areas. So by the kettle, by the bathroom mirror, by the oven, and by the telephone. And it just gives you that visual reminder as well, because obviously once you're busy and up and doing things, it can be really easy to forget to do these things. So it's just a little nudge that you can use throughout the day. So that comes to the end of my tips. I hope they've been helpful. Please do ask any questions in the comment section. I don't think we have any so far. But if you do think of anything, if you're watching this video back on the recording, feel free to drop any comments in there or get in touch with me directly. As I said at the beginning, my email address is zoe@nass.co.uk. So feel free to get in touch, and I'm available on the helpline each day as well, Monday to Friday. So hopefully we can help. We've got a few more videos planned coming up. I think our next one, possibly next week, is about night pain with Axial SpA. So if you have any particular questions with that, feel free to let me know and I'll make sure I cover them. And if there are any particular, if there's any advice you're after or anything you're having problems with, just let us know and we'll make sure that we create something for you and put it out there. So thank you for joining, and thank you for watching back if you watch back later. Let me know. I've got a question from David saying, am I okay to have my children during lockdown? I'm not with the mother, obviously I'm shielding. It would depend, David. If you wouldn't ideally they wouldn't be going between the households, because with shielding you wouldn't want to be having people going between the households. So yeah, if you're shielding, then not able to do that. But if you're unsure, then feel free to give us a call on the helpline and we can go through in more detail for your particular situation. Daniel, for the exercises I recommended, if you watch the recording, will be on remain on the page. So just pop back later on when the full recording's there and start from the beginning. In terms of the rib exercises I just recommended, if you pop into the video section on our page, it's in there. Last week we did the live on rib exercises where I go through a couple of those movements too. You're welcome, Peter and Anne. Thank you. Oh, we've got comments. Tina, I'm struggling with stiffness in my lower back while working at home. Are there any stretches to ease this? Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you've just joined, I went through some where when you're seated, you can do just tilting either side and then rotating so your back, you're looking behind you, and then the slumping movement and arching up towards the ceiling. So if you watch the video back from the beginning, I could go through that in more detail. But we also have a really good video of this on our YouTube channel. So if you go on YouTube and search NASS, or National Axial Spondyloarthritis Society, there's a seated routine that goes through in more detail and gives more advice on that as well. And Daniel asks, anything in particular to loosen the SI joint? Absolutely. So some really good stretches for that when you're lying on your back. And what you can do is just bend both your knees up so your feet are flat on the bed. And then you want to roll your knees just one side and then to the other. So you're getting a little bit of rotation through the lower back and naturally through the SI joints as well. The other exercise, again, lying on your back. If you bend one knee up towards you and relax the other leg down, you can then just hold onto your knee here and just hug it in towards your chest just for a couple of breaths and relax down, and then repeat on the other side. So you relax the other leg down, then bring the other one in and hold for a couple of breaths. They can be really nice. The SI joint doesn't naturally move very much anyway, but if you've got that inflammation there and you're feeling that stiffness, those movements are going to help just create a little bit of space in the joint and just help loosen it up as well. But if that doesn't help, or if you want any particular advice, then as I said, just give us a call on the helpline or drop me an email as well, and I'm happy to help. So do we have any other questions? Anything else you'd like advice on in terms of working from home with AS? And if there isn't anything, I'll sign off. But as I said, just feel free to get in contact afterwards. So thanks everyone for joining. And I think we'll leave it there as we've not got anything else. But take care, and I'll answer any other questions in the comments later on as well. So feel free to drop them in there. Thanks for joining.